Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. We appreciate all of those who are joining us this evening for what I hope to be a lively and informative discussion about young men and the role that society is playing today in the development of these young men, and the role that even as a physician that I may play, and each one of our guests may also play. Um, what we're up for the discussion tonight is the silent struggle that how young men navigate the complex truth to manhood in today's society. What we want to look at is um, from an early age, many boys receive powerful messages about what it means to be a man. Be strong, don't cry, handle things on your own. While some of these messages are meant to build resilience, they can also create barriers to emotional expression, connection, and even seeking help when it's needed the most. As a physician, I've seen firsthand how unspoken stress and suppressed emotion and societal expectations can show up just not just in mental health, but also in physical health and an overall well-being. I also see that as a father. I do have one son, and even though he's on the much older side, I do remember encountering and dealing with what he had to do with the stresses and concerns he had. So tonight we want to bring some of those struggles into the open. We want to explore how learning to navigate identity and pressure and purpose in today's world, and more importantly, what we as families, mentors, and communities can do to support them in becoming confident, emotionally healthy men. We're honored to be joined by distinguished guests and panelists who bring insight, experience, and real-world perspective to this conversation. So stay with us as we pause, reflect, and speak the truth about what our boys are facing today and what they truly need to thrive. So, with that in mind, I want to introduce, at least have our guests introduce themselves as to who's going on, who they are. First of all, we're going to introduce our behind the scenes guy, Mr. Jackson. This is one of the times he's coming from behind the scenes, and because we do need him up front with Tyrone telling you how he has, some boys on his own. And discussing why he especially wanted to have this conversation. Tyrone, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And I want to thank all of our guests. And I'm sure you'll get to that, Dr. King, and we're going to give them an opportunity. But, for the last 225 episodes, I've been labeled as the behind the scenes guy. I don't know how much behind the scenes I am, but, it is a running joke amongst us. And right. My thoughts is, Miss Jocelyn is away, so the men get to play. And that's where the conversation starts at today.
I'm gonna say the men get to say.
So the men get to say. That's exactly what I'm saying. So we always enjoy having Miss Jocelyn. We miss her when she's gone, but it does give us an opportunity to tackle some subjects that are male centric, and this is one of them.
Cool. So the next guest we have is Mr. Andrew George. Mr. George has joined us before. Mr. George, tell us quickly about yourself. Remind us anyway.
My name is Andrew George. I'm a board certified behavior analyst here in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm the owner of Pro Social Behavior Health. I also work for Translight Education in the special education realm, exceptional education realm.
Awesome. Now, within the capacity of your job, I happen to know a little bit. You deal with young men all the time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And some of them are trouble, and some you're just mentoring for the sake of mentoring.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And next we have Mr. Corey O'Neill. Pastor Corey O'Neill, I have to get used to that. I love looking at the sign behind him, but okay, that's another subject matter. There you go. So, Pastor O'Neill, can you go ahead and reintroduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. I'm Pastor Corey O'Neill. I'm the senior pastor of New Beginnings Outreach Ministries here in Jacksonville, Florida. I also serve as the program director for Project Rise with the Partnership for Child Health. And pretty much what we do is we work with at-risk youth, children exposed to violence, and we run the Youth Anti-Gang Prevention Program, which partners with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Pastor O'Neill, you got like 500 jobs with a
Yeah. But only one check.
And Mr. Jones, introduce yourself.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Trevon Jones. I am the founding director of Truth Synergies NFP here at East St. Louis. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and man of God. I serve as the kind of campus pastor for Good Samaritan Ministries of the Metro East. Happy to be here with you all tonight.
Awesome.
Very good. So, all right, guys, so let's get started. I'm going to ask the first question. Tyrone's going to chime in with some of the questions that he has as well. From your perspective, and anybody who wants to jump in first, feel free to do so. What are the biggest challenges boys face today on their journey to manhood? Anybody?
All right.
Want me to be a school teacher and pick out somebody?
Go ahead and kick it off, Corey.
Okay, I will say this. I grew up without my father. My father passed away when myself and my twin brother was just a year old. My mom was pregnant, so it was a total of 6 of us. And what shaped us was the presence of my grandfather, my mom's father. He was there. He was a man of little words, but he showed us by example what real men do. And so he showed us that real men take care of their families, real men go to work, and real men love God. Those were his three key principles: love God, go to work, and take care of your family. And so today, I think that example piece is missing for a lot of young men, either because the father is not in the home, or no one else in the family steps up to take the place of that void in that kid's life.
There's no pun intended, but we don't just preach; we teach. When we look at leading by example, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Either one of you other guys want to chime in?
Well, I won't be shy about it. I'll jump in, and I'll say that I can agree with what Pastor said. And I think one of the things that really kind of holds us back here is there's a little bit of a misconception that this generation is dealing with new things, right? But we know that the Bible tells us there's nothing new under the sun. So they're dealing with situations that are not exactly the same as situations that previous generations dealt with. But it's not that it's a new thing, and it's not that it's that they're walking into the world without a playbook, and it's not that we can't provide sound guidance and mentorship, biblical guidance and mentorship that's applicable today. So I think it's a matter of us as mentors being kind of creative and more actively pulling the next generation to the next level than previous generations. And I think that's where we are now, in a space where we're working it to start pulling those young men into the next level.
Mr. George?
So I got 3 things. First is we have a lack of balance. We have a lack of balance in how we approach life. We have too many extremes, number 2, and we have too much information that are given to these kids too early. They have access to too much too early that their brains are not ready to process yet. So those are like my 3 things, and I agree with both before me. And there's nothing new under the sun, but there's so much that is thrown at them at such a young age now. Like MTV Cribs came out, we didn't know what rich people had in their house. But now all these kids know, hey, I don't got it if I don't have Gucci flip flops. You know, we didn't know that stuff growing up, so I was cool with the feel of run balls. You know, so I think that's a big part of it. Is so much is thrown at them so quickly, so young that they don't have time to process or understand.
But I think that's so true. But I think that we neglect to change with time. When we do not change with time, it's hard for us to raise men to be productive citizens of society. I.e., when I grew up, I didn't go on my first cruise until I was 21. I didn't go out the country. All of my kids from 19 now to 6, they've been out of the country. They've been on cruises. We travel, we fly. They live good. We eat good. They haven't wanted for anything. There were times when I grew up, I didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. But that's something my kids they do not have to experience. But yet and still, I'm teaching my kids now that everything that we have, I worked hard for. I worked hard for. There are things that they're being exposed to that we weren't exposed to. So I feel that we can't say we're not going to expose them to it because it's at the fingertip. I think we have to get ahead of it and teach them, like you said, the MTV Cribs thing. My kids love looking at stuff like that, but I let them know it comes with hard work. It comes with dedication. It comes with putting in the work. So I agree with that, but we have to move with time. We have to move with time.
We change, we change with times, but we should change with time, but times are definitely changing. So, yeah. Mr. Jones, you wanted to say something?
No, I was going to say I was agreeing with the things that my brother was saying there, and I think there's space and opportunity for us to change the narrative, right, and going forward. And I think a conversation like this is beautiful and a good start space. So I would love to see this being duplicated in other spaces and really having some go forward steps from there to help other brothers communicate this same thing. Iron sharpens iron.
So now I would like to kind of delve into one little thing. As I looked into this here and was talking to some others, that in the adolescent years, the ages and grades of 1 through 6, that 90% of the teachers in that age group are females. Okay, so now we're talking already about an absent village. We're also talking about a reduction in the men in the home. And then now we have the children in front and being taught by women with their expectations. So my question is simply, what type of effect is that showing to be on these young men as they grow through life?
So I'm going to jump off of a point that I made earlier about the lack of balance. That's part of it. We have young men, especially African American or Black young men, they never get to see Black men as caretakers. And this is where it jumps off to extremes. So I got to be tough. I can't be a caretaker. That's not tough. But the toughest thing you can be is a father. But they never get to see that. So I think that jumps right off with the lack of balance in the extremes.
So the toughest thing as a man, for sure. But go ahead, Mr. Jones.
So I want to add to what he's saying there too, because I think it's important for us to really to understand what Black masculinity looks like in a positive way, right? So I'm on a call with 3 other panelists who are big brothers with big beards, right? But not the type of characters that we see portrayed in popular media, right? When it comes to Black masculinity, not gangster, not thuggish, you know what I mean? So this is not the picture that the world shows our young men, and I think we need to be the ones that change that.
Well, Mr. Jones, you raised an important point. We often say it takes a village, but the village is sometimes empty. Who's the primary influencer? Keyword influencer for a 15-year-old young boy today?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say for the masses, the majority of youth in Black communities, that's probably going to be one of the rappers, and I think that's an issue, right? So, where are the community leaders? We had a community or a generation of folk who were taught to kind of idolize and look up to celebrities, but generations before us were not that way, right? So there were community leaders, there were national leaders, right? You know, your generation had your Martin Luther Kings and your Reverend Jesse Jacksons and whatnot, Al Sharptons and all of those giants to stand on. In our generation, you know, we don't necessarily have that as much, and I think that's an issue.
I'm gonna ask each one of you to answer this question because you may have different answers or you may all agree. So, given what you just said, Mr. Jones, what is the single biggest piece of bad advice you see young men picking up from social media right now? If you had to narrow it down to a single one. I know there's a bunch out there, but I just want to kind of put a thought process in there. I see everybody looking up to the sky. You saw that, Tyrone? Everybody looking up to the ceiling like the answer's going to fall from heaven and give them that answer. But I think that's an important question because, you know, since we're limited for time, but we still want to have a very important discussion. You know, each one of you just give me your single piece of information, the single biggest advice, bad advice you see young men picking up from social media right now.
I would definitely go with this image piece, that you have to fit within a certain image to be cool, to be accepted. Working with JSO's gang unit, working with at-risk youth, every kid feel like they're important because they have a gun in their hand. And it's not even a gun. It's a certain type of gun. It's those Dracos. It's those illegal guns. It's and the need to be accepted by the wrong crowd is what I'm seeing now. That's the need to be accepted. You know, I'm telling you, I used to see growing up in our age, it was who had the most girlfriends or, you know, crazy stuff. Now it is who we beefing with. Like if you're not beefing with somebody, then you're nobody.
You're not relevant.
Exactly. You got to be beefing with somebody, and that's not even for the young Black men. That's for young Black women too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You just gotta be beefing with somebody.
Okay, Mr. George.
So it's interesting because I think we're in a place now where it's transforming right before our eyes. When I was coming up, it was get money, but it never told you get money the right way. It was just get money by any means necessary. These kids now are crashing out for Facebook likes. Like their media presence is probably what's doing the most damage. And Corey can attest to this. A lot of these beefs start out on Instagram. You know, so I think that oh, you got to be seen, you got to be on the scene. That's probably the worst advice we're giving them now, because, like I said, it's likes now. It's not even money no more. They're not motivated by money. They're motivated by kind of like what Corey was saying, like how my image is in the community.
But now let's speak to the reason why they're not motivated by money as much, because when Corey was talking, he said that, you know, that his children are experiencing things that it took him till he was 21 before he had an opportunity to experience those. So the wealth and the well-being of their parents and the willingness to make sure that children have experiences is the reason why in some cases there is not a great concern for money and the earning of money. You know, that we've been taking care of kids and taking care of them for so long that we forgot how to teach them how to take care. And Corey spoke to it because he said at the end of he made sure that they understand that he has to work for that money. You know what I'm saying? That part is being left out oh so many times. Okay, so good discussion. So now, what about the emotional expression in the stigmatism of vulnerability? I think, Brother George, you spoke to that. So if you're a young man and you show any vulnerability, then you're looked down upon. You're considered less. Has that increased over the years, or is it the same as it always has been?
Ooh. I would say that it's increased, and I'm gonna go back to something that we were talking about earlier to explain my point on that. When I was coming up, we had OGs. Your OG was like 20, 30 years older than you.
Mm-hmm.
Their OGs are like 7 years older than them. So it's like you're learning from someone who is blind himself. So it's a situation where, because we have all of these kids who really need to sit down on somebody's couch and get therapy themselves, leading the kids who also need therapy, it's like the blind leading the blind.
So, Mr. George, you raised a question, and you may have semi answers. So, how important is the presence of a positive male role model in a boy's life?
I mean, you if we play in percentages, without a positive male, you're 80% to take on every negative category there is.
Mm.
And that's by studies. So if you want to give your child a 20% chance to make it in life, take that male role model out of there, and he'll have a 20% chance to make it. If he has a
Mr.
positive
Wynn?
role model, it's the 80% chance that he actually becomes something positive. So,
and let's be clear now. We spoke to the fact that there are fewer fathers in home, but a positive role model is what he said. He didn't say a father. He said a positive role model. Men and mentors and positive role models come of all shapes and sizes. I remember growing up in East St. Louis, and the situation is the coaches and the requirement to be involved in athletics mean that you had to report yourself in a manner that did not disrespect them.
mm-hmm.
And because of that, it forced me to rise to the top and do things that normally I wouldn't do. When friends said, "Hey man, let's go do so and so," no man, I won't be able to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because the coach is not having it.
So Tyrone, then, and not just you, but it's open up to everybody. So how do we convince a young man that listening to an elder isn't selling out, but may actually be a shortcut to success?
Well, I'll start off on this one here because I'm really passionate about this here, and it's engagement. Far too often, as adults, we want to tell children or youth what to do without building a rapport, without building a relationship, and without being involved with them. So you just Johnny on the spot, and you want to tell them that they need to do something. I had a situation at church. A young man came into the church and he had his hat on. All right. The assumption for all of the older members of the church is, what is he doing in here with his hat on? I asked a simple question was, well, who went to him and asked him if he even knew that it was disrespectful to not have a hat on? And upon bringing it to his attention in that manner, he would say, well, oh, what was his comment? I didn't know. He took his hat off, sat down, enjoyed the sermon, and continues to come back. Had the other approach been taken where they sat there, they talk, don't say anything, then the opposite is achieved. And that's what Brother George said, positive influence.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I believe that it's important for engagement to start early. Working in this field, trying to mentor someone 13 and 14 that's out there, you're way past prevention. You're into intense intervention, and the likelihood of that kid really making a change is going to be difficult. I don't care how you look at it. These kids, a lot of them that's just out there, they've been doing what they've been doing for majority of their lives. And so, and if you do step in, I would say consistency is going to be key. We're quick to give up on kids when they make one mistake. I don't really follow statistics that much. I don't follow research that much, because when you survey 500 people, you're not speaking for the country. When you survey 1,000 people, you're not speaking for the 300 million people out there. But I know in our program, the youth that we have connected to a mentor, we literally see them go weeks, months without getting into any trouble. And this mentor is consistent. He's seeing these kids 3 times a week. He's spending hours with them on the weekend. And I've seen it through my program. The moment the mentor disengaged for a matter of 2 weeks, over half of the kids on his caseload got into trouble.
Okay.
I can't speak for the rest of the youth, but just that particular group that I had. And so that consistency, it works, but it works, but you got to be consistent. So it's important. It's important.
Mr. Jones, you wanted to say something?
I do want to follow behind him, and I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that story, but I'm glad that he shared that. So I agree with him, and what I would add to that is when your engagement adds value to that youth, especially outside of that one-on-one or that engagement with them, it is something that's likely more impactful that they can take with them. So one of the things that we do at Truth is we teach what we call personal development power tools. And these are things that you can utilize when you get into spaces. And, when you're in our space, it's very therapeutic and it's easy to, to open up and work with your mentor and such. But you got to go to the church's chicken and we still going to shoot each other if we step on our J's, right? Mm-hmm. Unless I know how to do this breathing technique and I can regulate myself by utilizing this breathing technique or whatever other, tools that we utilize that particular day, right? But I think it's important that we give people a thing to take with them outside of that engagement, because while we're with them, young people, they'll be straight while we're with them, right? And while we're working with them, but if you don't give them something that's lasting and something that they can put in their pocket, put in their tool belt, they'll revert back, very, very easily.
That's good. Andrew George and I, we're play facilitators for, it's called Preventing Long-Term Anger and Aggression in Youth. It's a program that was instituted by Dr. Howard Stevenson in the University of Pennsylvania, and that breathing technique is one of the techniques that we use. Breathing, inhale, exhale, location where the anger is, and all that. So it works. It works. And I'm gonna tell you this: being able to change with time is also part of being a positive mentor. I listened to Tyrone's story about the young man with the hat on. We young men come into the church with hats on. We let them keep their hats on because we're in a generation where that's not disrespectful. And when we go back and we look and see, is it truly disrespectful to us, or is that what we were brought up in? We were brought up on when you come into a home, you remove the hat. That doesn't make it disrespectful. We were taught if you put a hat on the bed is bad luck. We don't believe in that now. And so just being able to meet the young people where they are and then begin to teach them proper things. And because me and my son, we were at a church before, and a young man had a hat on. A deacon came from out the balcony and told the young man, "You need to move your hat, or you need to leave." And guess what that young man did? He got up and he left.
Gotcha.
He got up and left. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a question that goes along with this. It's going to be kind of a multi-phasic question. So, what are the early warning signs that a young boy may be struggling emotionally, and what happens when that young boy is taught to suppress his emotions like sadness or fear?
Can I start this one off?
You sure can.
So just because we're talking about the hat situation, right? I was doing some work with a program And these were the people who taught me what trauma-informed care was, like way back in like 2016. But they had a program downtown St. Louis, and there were 175 ninth graders, right? And there was about 75 mentors involved in this program. So very well staffed, very well run, except you bring 150 kids into this space, and about 40% of them were wearing do-rag, hood, Beats by Dre, hood number 2. And it was very apparent to me that the vast majority of these kids were in a extremely protective pot. They're protecting their head, right? There's a trauma in their life, but nobody was there was not a mechanism involved to pull a kid to the side and say, is there something that we need to talk about? You know, there was none of that. So we talk trauma informed, but we don't embed those things into how we do business as much. And I think that's the thing that we really just really look at a kid, right? If a kid's got 4 layers over his head, he's protecting himself from something. You know, let's have a conversation about that.
Most definitely. Yes.
Anybody else?
So I got one question that I ask every kid that comes into my program, and it's so telling. And what I ask them is, when you get frustrated or you get angry or you're sad or you just come into any general problem, who do you talk to? 90% of the kids that I talk to, their response is nobody. I already know what the deal is at that point. 90% of the kids, that's their response. Nobody.
So with those individuals that you mentioned, when you do see them having some emotional issues, let me ask you this. How does that suppression of their emotions, how do you recognize that, or how does that show up later in life?
I just recently read a book, The Deepest Well, and this book starts with a very fit young Black doctor having a stroke in his early 40s, and what it boiled down to was there was a bunch of early childhood adversities or experiences, adverse childhood experiences that had not been dealt with and not been resolved, and these were the things leading to health problems, way down the road, right? So that's the thing that we really need to dig into, is looking at our trauma, because those things manifest into health issues down the road if we don't get those things resolved.
So that's a matter of early childhood experiencing, and which helps shape the young man's identity and coping skills. Is that kind of what we're looking at in terms of what we may need to do to assist that young man and to moving forward in his life? I'm just asking a question. I'm not.
Well, I don't think not only coping skills, reaction skills. We teach these kind of things, tell them how they respond to stimuli, how they respond to situations, how they act when in opposition in any way. And that is where we really have the great challenge, because addressing your trauma, addressing and being able to speak forth and understand that you're right to feel away. You're right in the experience of what you had, but your action is more valuable in how you become a more rounded individual. So that's how I see it. Well, gentlemen, I want to ask you all to hold on for me for just a moment. We're about halfway through the show, and every day, every time we have our show, we have a mid-show minute. And through this here, we just give some additional information. So I'm going to ask everybody to sit back, drink your favorite beverage, and give us an opportunity to put forth to the listeners our mid-show minute.
Welcome to Mid-Show Minute. Today is May 5th, 2026, let's talk about the village, because a lot of boys are growing up without one. We tell them to soar, then hand them no manual for the takeoff. Here's the truth and the tension. The CDC reports youth suicide rates ages 10 to 24 fell nearly 12% from 2021 to 2024, largely because young men's rates dipped. That is real progress. A JAMA study found youth suicides were about 11% lower than projected after 988 launched. Access matters, but the ground is still shaky. A century-long analysis shows youth suicide risk has been creeping earlier and higher for more than 50 years. In 2025, over half of under 18s who took a depression screening reported frequent suicidal thoughts. That's an alarm bell, not background noise. Why are boys still stuck between takeoff and tailspin? The village has thinned. Classrooms, especially early grades, are mostly staffed by women who do incredible work. Yet many boys rarely encounter consistent, engaged male role models in school. A kid can only copy what he sees. If he never sees healthy masculinity modeled up close, the algorithm becomes his coach. And the algorithm is loud. It rewards heat over heart, clicks over character. It can't teach a handshake, an apology, or how to convert anger into purpose. There's also a double bind. Be tough, not cold. Be open, not weak. Mixed signals turn feelings into shame, and shame turns silence into pressure. So what actually helps? First, keep widening the on-ramps to care. 988 works when more people know and use it. Second, make mentorship normal, not exceptional. After school, on teams, in faith centers, in barbershops. Third, invest where representation grows. HBCUs produce half of black teachers, while black teachers overall remain a small share nationwide. When students see themselves at the front of the room, hope shows up in the back row, and safety isn't abstract. Families and communities can reduce lethal risks like securing firearms to buy time for help to arrive. If you're a boy or a young man hearing this, you're not broken. You're learning a language many of us were never taught. Find one adult who listens. Ask one honest question. Take one step toward help. We didn't lose the manual. We're rewriting it together in public, one conversation at a time. Watch the full episode for the deep dive, the classroom gap, the algorithm trap, how we rebuild the village on purpose. You're not alone. 988 if you need it right now.
Wow, Tyrone, that was excellent, as usual, with your minute, our minute. And the day was a little shorter than others, but boy, it still hit the point. But you did raise a point in there. And so, how do we convince young men or a young man that listening to an elder isn't selling out, but actually a shortcut to success? Anybody?
George, look like
No, yeah.
ready to say something.
Well, I'm gonna jump off of what Pastor Corey said. It's early intervention. You know, it is hard to get into their heads when they already made their first sale, or they shot their first gun, or they got their first op, whatever the situation is. We got to start real early, and then we also gotta. And again, going back to my original point with extremes, we got to show them that there's so many ways to be successful that it interests them as well. I think a lot of our kids are just underexposed now. For the men on this panel, our kids are probably overexposed, you know, because we've worked hard to get into the positions to get them there. But for the average kid, you know, you ask a kid what they want to be in Jacksonville: football player, basketball player, rapper. Half of them don't even know what an architect is.
Mm.
So that early exposure, that early intervention is key with getting them to listen to the older crowd.
And I think us shared experiences matters as well.
Yes.
Um, we have to share with them some of the struggles that we went through, and share with them the insight, the advice, and the correction that we got from our elders as well. And then we're fighting against. I know I'm getting in trouble by saying it. We're fighting against a system that is not a good example for our youth. When you got football coaches, coaches that coach for the Pop Warner, when they're selling drugs and they're cursing at the kids during football, right? They're smoking in front of the kids, and you have the not so good influence people supporting the park financially. And so we have kids looking up to not just on social media, it's right there in our community. It goes back to what Tyrone said. I had a coach Michael Dortch. I played baseball at Pine Forest growing up. You couldn't bring a C and play football for him, baseball for him. He made you sit in the bleachers, and if you didn't practice, you couldn't play baseball. It started at a very young age. I mean, I see coaches now cursing out 5 and 6 year olds. And then when the mom say something, Mom, you're gonna make them soft. And there we go, projecting a certain kind of masculinity onto a 6-year-old. So now he's 9, and he's thinking that him being a man or him being a young man is cursing the teacher out. So it's hard for us to tell a kid it's important to listen to an elder when the elders that they're actually grew up listening to show them examples.
Mr. Jones, did you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I do. So I think we have to go back to adding value, right? So the reason that a kid can listen to one of those coaches and project himself onto that image of that coach is because they see the football skill or sports skill as value added to them, right? So us as men of character, if one the vast majority of the kids that I run into have a physical need, they're hungry, right? So we feed kids, and now that you're eating, let's deliver some other value to you, right? So a lot of kids are looking for jobs. Well, most of the time you just need a good resume and an advocate, right? So yeah, I'll write a resume with you. I'll give you a letter of recommendation. I'll walk you up to this interview, right? We'll get you in the suit, whatever we need to do to add that value so that kid can weigh out the value that they get from the world and outside, negative forces versus what they get from us and make their own choices.
Dr. Kenny Jones asked the question, why do we put up with the behavior or tolerate the behavior from these coaches?
Because parents want the payoff in the end. Every parent want their kid drafted by the NFL, drafted by the NBA, and the reality of the matter is your chances of getting drafted are very slim to none. There are thousands of players out there wanting the same position that you want. At the end of the day, I teach my sons, at the end of the day, all I want you to be is a decent human being. If you can be a decent human being, treat yourself and treat others with dignity and respect, take care of your family, I think I've done my job and I've been successful. But there's just such an image out there that our young Black men feel like they have to fall into that image. They have to fall into that stigma, or they're not. They're not it. But that's far from the truth. I'm passionate about it because a lot of our young men they're being deceived about what a young Black man is, and it's not true. It's not true.
Well, there's another more obvious reason too: babysitting. Give the parents a break. So, given the option between having a good quality person rearing their child and no one at all, when them having to rear their own child, then they select which is easiest for them. Now, I when the question came up, there was something I wanted to say prior to that, and to your question, Dr. Kane, and it's something that in a world where social media is what it is, and it ain't going nowhere, then one of the things I think would be helpful is for us to have intentional influencers. As adults, why are we not creating influencers that speak to them based on our on the message that we want to get through them. Because let's be honest, what are the two most powerful reasons for an influencer to exist? Number one is to feel empowered, for people to like them. But number two is economical. It is monetary. All right. So if you really want to reach you, then create influencers that are influencing the way you want to go and not allow them to just influence all willy-nilly.
So Mr. Jackson asked, what are the interventions for the adults?
Can I
One
answer
of our
that?
listeners.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would, and I love that question, and I think it's something that we do need to lean into more. So what, and I would change this question just a little bit and say, what are interventions for parents, right? So you talked about childcare and the choices that parents have to make, quality childcare versus no childcare. But I think there are opportunities for interventions for parents and things, but I think those things exist in the church, right? And they don't really exist outside of the church. So if there every black church in America that I know of is doing the best that they can to increase their men's ministry, right? So if you're a dad looking for an intervention and you just need some help and you need an iron sharpening iron situation, there's a church within a mile of your house, I'm sure of it, if you live in a black community, right? So go find that men's ministry, right? And I think the answers are local.
Yeah.
All right, but I want to take a real quick moment. I see Dr. Moses has joined us, and I wanted to welcome him in. Glad to have you into this conversation. It has been very robust. We've covered a lot of things. So thank you very much for coming in and being a part of this discussion. And I'm gonna lead out with this next question, and I'm gonna ask you to chime in, Dr. Mosley. What is the importance of mentorship and positive role models against the challenges that our young children have today?
Good evening. Mentorship is very important. It's so needed. We need to push it more because, again, like I heard someone say that they don't have a lot of that leadership in the home to guide these young men. So we got to have mentorship out here to be able to mentor these young men who are lacking from in their household. It is a challenge, but I think the more that we continue to do it, the more that we'll reach out to more youth that we don't get through to. But the more we have to do it more and more to keep motivating our youth because they are not guided in certain ways, especially in manhood. And it's those that are in single parent mom homes. And so we need more men like us to mentor these young men or reach out to them and pour into them because they are being exposed to a lot out here and they don't know how to channel all these directions, all these things that's coming at them. And they need a man to be able to guide them through that. They got to first build that trust, of course, but mentoring, being a mentor, I think every young man, even adults, everybody have a mentor, but we got to motivate the young men to be able to want to trust the man to be able to guide them through life and give them that support that they need all the way through their life until they become a mentor themselves and we keep the cycle going.
Now, hey, Brother George, I'm going to put this one off to you. So, in your own words, define what a mentor is.
To put simply, a mentor is a guide. Oh, a mentor is a guide. I have this saying that in order to mentor a child, you need 3 R's. Everybody wants the right, but not everybody wants the responsibility or the time to build a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So when I mentor someone, I'm saying you are now my responsibility. I'm going to build a relationship with you, and that allows me to that gives me the right to correct you when you go wrong. But if it doesn't come in that step process, you're gonna lose them because you're not checking me and you don't know me. You're not checking me and you don't come check on me. You don't look for me. Like my brother said earlier, feeding hungry kids. If I'm your mentor and you're hungry and I'm not physically feeding you, man, I don't want to hear what you have to say. But that's part of you becoming my responsibility. You're now my responsibility. So every aspect of your life, I want to put my hands on as your mentor. And I want to guide you, not in the way that I want you to go, but in the way that wherever God wants you to go, and I'm just going to help push in that direction. So that's my 3 R's is you got to take the responsibility, you got to build that relationship, and then you have the right to correct at that point.
And let me add to that, it always starts off a challenge. But the longer you stay involved with the youth and you show that consistency, it becomes expected. It becomes easy. They look for you for that guidance. So it starts off rocky because they need to know that you in it. You in it for the long haul. You know what I'm saying? You're willing to give of yourself for the betterment of them. And that's what back to you saying feeding. You know what I'm saying? You see I'm hungry, but you're not going to let me be hungry. You've invested in me. So now it's easy for me to listen to you.
This I got to ask this question because it has come up in previous shows, and all of you have mentioned the role that God plays in our lives as a community and as kids going to church, what we would like to teach them. How do we address those individuals who are not in the church? Because we have a large group of people. I was going to say kids, but some of them parents aren't going to church. How do we reach those guys that are not in the church? Because a lot of times when you're in the church, that kind of teaches you the responsibilities just by the pure teachings of the church. But for those that are not into the church, how do we reach that community?
I think that being a mentor is a call. I know that it's a call. You got to be called to mentor. The biggest headaches I'm having right now when it comes to mentorship is your organizations like Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They don't want to mentor the people that really needs mentoring. They want to mentor the kids that already has a father in the home. They want to mentor the kid that's already going to church. They want to mentor the kid that has a good basketball coach at the high school. They want to mentor someone that's going to make their program look good. We're catching hell trying to connect little Johnny, who has a record and holding a gun, with these reputable mentorship organizations. Every kid you got is not going to want to go on a college tour, but you got to meet that kid right where he is. So a lot of people, they want to be mentors to make themselves look good. Being mentors is not about making you look good. Everybody's not going to church. As a matter of fact, you use that example. The church is not the building. Jesus said, I command you to go into the highways and byways and compel men to come and baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. None of the miracles Jesus performed was actually in a building. He turned water into wine at the wedding. He healed Peter's mother-in-law at his house. Most of the miracles were not done in the temple. And so I think we need to go out of our comfort zone and really find young men that truly need a mentor. A mentor that's going to take everything that each and every last one of us has said: time, consistency, someone that's not going to give up easy, someone that's going to hold them accountable, someone that's going to be there to give them advice and not give up on them when they're bad. So if you're not called to mentor, just stay. But most of these organizations, they're not called to mentor. They want to mentor the kids that's going to make their program look good, because that's how they get their funding. But
first, do no harm. As you say in medicine, first do no harm.
Let me add a little
Go
bit
ahead,
to
Dr. Mosley. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. Okay, I just want to add a little piece to Corey, because boy, you started preaching, boy. You got
excited, didn't
he? But the other piece that I'm gonna add, and Corey knows that I'm passionate about this. The church itself has to transform.
They got to.
The church itself, because at my church now, I serve as a youth pastor at St. Joseph. At our church now, our youth run the church from Monday through Friday. The old folk get to church on Sunday. You understand what I'm saying? But our church has transformed. We do martial arts. We teach how to write resumes. We teach. We let them play basketball. Man, we've been roasting marshmallows. So now the church is a hangout. The church has to transform. All this coming to church on Sunday, sitting out in the pew, thank you, Jesus, hallelujah, we go home. That's not going to reach these youth. They want to come and they want to hoop, and I hoop with them. You know, and that's why now I'm cool because, oh, Mrs. Coach George got a little crossover. Yeah, I do. I'm about that. So, but it becomes real to them. So the church itself has to transform along with everything that Corey just said.
So
Yeah.
if I could go ahead, Doctor. I'm sorry.
So just real quick, 80 to 90% of the young men that I mentor, they're not in anybody's church. That's not even one of their focuses. That's why, I feel like, now the church is very important and the young men that are there definitely needs to have that mentorship. But the young man I have, before I can even guide them through, about church and about God, they have that belief. A lot of them believe in God, but the young men that I work with, none of them have been involved in church, not even thinking about church. So we have to get out there in these streets, in these neighborhoods, in these apartment complexes where people scared to go and talk to these young men, because that once you start talking, you go ahead and talk about church in the beginning, you're gonna lose them. Like Mr. George said, we got to meet them where they are, and
Yeah,
the churches, they got to leave out of those buildings, and they walk and want to get everybody saved and things of that nature. And I'm a believer in that as well. But we got to walk and start recruiting these young men and having being able to go where they are and talk to them where they are, because a lot of them not gonna feel comfortable coming to a church.
absolutely. Mr. Jones, did you want to say something?
Yes, sir. I would just add to that. I agree with everything my brother said, and the only piece that I would add is we have to have good people, focused on the ceiling and the floor of the community. So I hate to see it. National orgs coming into communities and cherry picking and playing with a stacked deck, and those things, just to put the check in the box for their grants, when nobody's intentionally putting that same energy into dealing with the least of us, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're not, your community is at risk if you're and you're not helping it, if you're not really intentionally focusing good energy and resources into dealing with the floor and the least of us in your community.
Well, gentlemen, go ahead.
Hold on, and let's not get it misunderstood. There's a statement that I've heard for many a times, and that sometimes the only God people sees is the God they see in an individual, in you. So we're talking about touching and reaching individuals. When they see it in you and they see it consistently, then their respect and understanding it's grown. It is a lot easier to have or get a young man involved in church after you've gotten involved in him. Because now he wants to go and do what you're doing.
Amen.
He wants to be and pattern his life off of what he saw in you, because it's something about what you've done that touched him. And so then it's easier to get him to go to church.
All right, so it's our rapid. We're coming upon the end of the hour, so I'm going to do a series of questions, because I want you guys to give me your quick and dirty answers. Use the pun, but your quick answer to this. A couple of questions. What does strength really mean for a young boy today?
You said what does strength?
Yeah, what does strength really mean for a young man or young boy today?
I'll jump in real quick. I think the number one predictor of whether a young man is going to go in the right direction in our communities today is their access to respect, right? So, and what I mean by that is you can really kind of look at each individual and say, this young man is an athlete and he gets respect in that realm, or this young person is involved in the church and they get respect in that realm, or this is a straight A student and they get respect in that realm. And when that kid does not have a space to where they have access to being respected, this is when we go get guns, right? So what does strength look like? What is my avenue to respect within my community, right? So kids, if we create those pathways, that's what it is. That pathway is the means in which I gain strength. Hopefully that made sense.
Jim, anybody else?
For me, I think strength in these young men is how they're viewed. What people think of them. Being able to control their environment, that's their strength. Being able to, be that person if it's want to make everybody laugh or want people to respect them or fear them. To me, that's what they think strength is.
I agree with Dr. Mosley. Strength is acceptance. If I can be accepted, if I'm accepted, then there's strength to me. I totally agree.
Mr. George, any addition?
I'm along with him.
All right. So the next one is, what is the one thing every boy should hear growing up, but often does not?
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
Unanimous.
I love you.
Unanimous. I thought I'd get a unanimous answer with that. I sure did. Okay. What anybody can chime in on this. What gives you hope about the next generation of young men?
There are more young Black men doing good than there are doing bad. We have
Exactly.
to change the perspective of what social media put out, what the media put out. There are far more young men graduating college than there are going to prison.
Yep, hands down.
I would say also it's a Jesus revival amongst young people. You could look at sports. Nobody won nothing in the last 2 or 3 years that didn't have a Jesus revival. I'm just saying.
Come on.
What gives you hope about the next generation of young men?
I think the thing that gives me hope too is just their access. So access can be negative, but access can also be very positive.
Yeah.
There are things that they now can see. Like coming up in elementary, I remember talking in social studies about, man, maybe one day we gonna have a first Black president. I remember those conversations, but now we see judges, we see the president. Well, like we have 2 Black female judges in Jacksonville. We had our first Black mayor in Jacksonville. So just their access to very successful people that look like them gives me hope.
And
They got
also,
more.
go ahead, Dr. Mosley.
They have more access to how to be successful, whether they know it now or not. But it's more access and it's growing. Although there's a lot of negatives, there's a lot of access to a lot of positive things, a lot of guidance. If believe it or not, there's more of us being have businesses, wanting doing their own business, and a lot of that is motivating them more than we think. So I feel like futuristically, I think the paradigm is going to shift where are you going to start seeing people wanting to start exposing more of the positive that's going on and start frowning more at the negative? Right now, our youth, they feed off the negative. But I feel like if more and more the way this media and everything is going, the positive is going to start coming out, and we as a community going to have to start pushing out more of the positive of what's going on as well.
Yeah, the access is important. Having more tools is important, and history is repeating itself. They've gotten rid of affirmative action. They're knocking down the voting act. So, but this next generation have tools that my grandfather didn't have. They have education and access that we didn't have. So I'm excited to see this fight that's going to come because our young people are equipped. But the biggest thing is I'm with Pastor Jones. Jesus said that we can do all things. So I'm excited to see this next generation come forth and do some amazing things.
And I want to add to that.
They have exposure to and access, as you guys said, to other much more than what we had growing up. Mr. Jones.
I just add one piece to that. I've gotten the opportunity to work with young people professionally, and what I really noticed about them that's really promising to me is their tech native brains and how that correlates is they just don't have learning curves. Like they don't even think about things being a challenge for them to learn in the way that we did, right? So if anybody gives one of us a new system, the first thing we're going to think about is how hard is this going to be for me to pick up? How many hours is going to take me to really get this? They don't think they think if this doesn't work well, it was designed poorly.
Right. The old guys get stressed about this stuff. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Exactly. And I was going to say one of the most powerful things about access is it create experiences.
Yeah.
And through these experiences, whether they're successful or they're failed, they are lessons learned. And that is what I see as a positive as we look for, because from that, they can only grow and have a different viewpoint of looking at the world because of their experiences.
Okay, one last quick question. Actually, I'm gonna have a bonus one to this, but what is one action our listeners can take this week to support a boy in their life?
If they're not mentoring them, link them up to a positive mentor.
Go eat lunch with a young person and listen. Shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen.
That's right. Shut up and listen. Let them talk.
And one of the things we said earlier, tell them that you love them.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I would say this: I would get one serious at-risk youth, because it's going to be so easy to touch that kid that's there. I mean, be intentional in who you tell you love. Be intentional in who you pour in to. Don't be selective with it.
And there's no dialogue. You can be talking to be like, man, you know I love you. I love you, man. That's all you got to say.
Oh yeah, it's easy.
Corey, Mr. Jackson, Mr. George. Sorry about that, Mr. George Jackson. But go ahead. you mute, Mr. George. You mute.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think my brother said it best. Just shut up and listen. just don't try to interject. Don't try to teach a lesson. Hear their story first.
Right.
Let them tell their story. And then when they get done telling their story, go get you one of these hardcore boys, let them tell you their story. And then when they get done, tell them you love them. So put it all together.
Judgment-free zone. Judgment-free zone.
Okay, so this is not necessarily a question for you guys. It's for the audience to think about. Okay, think about a young man in your life, and what message are you sending him about what it means to be a man?
Wow. Good.
Ask yourself, to our audience, ask yourself that question.
Good.
And then act on it. That's his other statement. All right, we've come to the end of the show. We've actually went beyond the time, and I like to respect you guys' time. So I kind of want to give everybody an opportunity to have a last minute input and what they want to say. So we're going to start from right and go to left. I'm not left-handed, so I go ahead and start at the right and go left. Pastor O'Neill.
Thank you again, Dr. King, for having me on the podcast. Thank you, Tyrone. Just in final thoughts, I just really truly want us to be intentional in our approach to helping save the lives of young men. The population and demographic of young men that I work with, it reminds me of the Santa Claus is Coming to Town movie, the land of misfit toys. Nobody wants to deal with them. Nobody wants to talk with them. They've just been pushed aside, but I believe there's hope for them as well. And dialogue like this is important as we endeavor to try to save each youth, one youth at a time. So I want to commend all of you gentlemen for the work that you do. Continue to let God lead you and guide you. And thank you all for your time.
Pastor Mosley.
Basically, we need to continue to stay together. We have to keep fighting this fight. We got to keep moving. We got to keep challenging ourselves to change the lives of these young men. Again, we put them in the forefront. We have to guide them. We have to lead them. And of course, God is our way to give us the strength to do this, because this is not hard work. I mean, this is not easy work. But all of us have that strength through God to be able to support and push us to be able to support these young men, because without that, we wouldn't be able to do this work. This is God's work. All of us have been called to do this work, like Pastor said. And a lot of people, they want to try to follow. But if you don't have this in your heart, and if you don't have this in your spirit, and this is not your ministry, you're not gonna get through to these young men. So I would just say, we have to continue to have people forward, or guide young men towards us, because we have a track record of changing their lives. And I'm a firm believer that any one of us on here get through to any young man that comes in our path. And so we just have to continue doing this work. We gonna change lives, one child at a time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. George?
Um, this is for, first of all, thank y'all for having me on. But in my closing words, this is for all the brothers that's on the bench. Get your behind up and
Yeah.
get the game,
In the
because
game.
we need you. We need you. There's only so many people that these brothers on this call can mentor. We are limited by time and resources. If you are on the bench and you know you got that calling to come work with these kids, get your butt up and get in the game, because we need you.
And
Amen.
Mr.
Amen.
Jones?
So not too long ago, the whole black community tuned in and watched our brother Cat Williams for 3.5 hours talk his stuff, and I think we missed the most important part, and that is one thing he said was the people of God are not as few as you think. Right. So I got on this call tonight not knowing I was going to have 5 brothers to pray for the foreseeable future. Right. But that's what the reality of the situation is for me. And what I know is if we doing it, it's probably somebody else doing it. Right. So we could take we could rejoice, meaning to have joy again. Right. Have previously been joyful. Right. We could rejoice in the fact that there are men of God building the kingdom of God throughout the country and throughout the black community, and is not what the media has sold us, right? So I appreciate being here with you brothers tonight, and God bless y'all.
Thank you, sir. And behind the scenes guy, as we call him, Mr. Tyrone Jackson.
Well, I want to thank each and every one of our guests who are on. The show is everything I thought it would be. And it's important that we have this kind of discussion, and we have discussion as often as possible, because the truth comes out through these kind of discussions. One of the things I like to take just a moment to cap on, and there are many of us who are called to this, but I am telling you, there are more who can get involved who may not be called. Sometimes I'm taken back to what coaches used to say. There are players who like to drive the train, and there's some who don't even want to go until the train gets going. And sometimes that's the same for our brothers. Get involved with men who are doing things, churches that are doing things, and slowly get yourself involved. It is difficult to be around these young men and not want to pour into them. It's very, very difficult. So put yourself in a place to get involved. That's what I want to give to everyone who's listening.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before I'm gonna give my closing statement, but I want you guys to just stay on just a couple of minutes after we finish the podcast, so we can have a little discussion on something. But for my closing remarks, so as we bring tonight's conversation to a close, one thing is clear. Our boys are navigating a complex path, often without the language, the support, or the safe spaces they need to fully express themselves. The silent struggle we discussed tonight is real, but it doesn't have to remain silent. When we create environments where boys feel seen, heard, and valued, not just for their strength, but for their honesty, their emotions, and their growth, we begin to change the narrative. We begin to raise young men who are not resilient, who are not only resilient, but also compassionate, self-aware, and connected. This work doesn't fall on just one person or one system. It takes all of us. It takes a village, period. Parents, educators, mentors, community leaders, we each have a role to play in shaping what health and manhood looks like for the next generation. I want to thank all of our guests for sharing their wisdom and perspective, and to thank you, to our viewers, for joining us in this important conversation and discussion. Remember, real strength includes the courage to speak, to feel, and to seek support. Until next time, I'm Dr. Rogers Kane, and this is Pause for the Truth.
We appreciate you spending time with us on Pause for the Truth. Ms. Jocelyn Turner and Dr. Rogers Kane are grateful for your support. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, catch us live on Twitch, and most importantly, subscribe on YouTube. A big shout out to Tyrone Jackson at Call Tyrone IT Services for keeping us connected. Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more enlightening discussions. Thanks, and see you next week.